It's always funny when you see yourself. Oh, I think I have some cherry stuff on my face. Hey, let me duck out for a second. You take it.
Hey, everybody. This is Burlington Democrats Political Update, Burlington and beyond, with your co-hosts and executive producers, Andrew Champagne and Owen Doherty. And here today, thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in for the first time, it's not typical that we have a special guest.
Sorry.
But today is a great day. Last day of July, we have a special guest here. Peter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Peter Trombley, a longtime friend of Andrew and Owen's and involved in Vermont Democratic politics. Currently work in State Treasurer Mike Piechek's office and really excited to be here today. I've always liked watching the show. Really glad to be on.
Yeah.
So I went and got some cherries at the co-op.
They're the deal.
Unfortunately,
They're
it
on
ended
sale
up on
right
my
now.
chin, and I didn't realize till I saw the TV come on. Peter, I first met, my dear buddy, great guy, at working on, it'll go down as a great, great campaign, working on Becca Balint's campaign. She came from way back. The front runner was way ahead. Becca was from Brattleboro, kind of like Becca Who, and just through the course of her personality, her issues, was able to take a very tough opponent and win a really resounding primary win. Let's talk about that a little bit. Molly's our friend, and we love Molly, and I want Molly to run again for lieutenant governor. But Becca had just come from that experience in the Senate and just had a lot of mojo. Why don't you just talk about that for a few minutes, Peter?
Well, it was a great race, a very interesting campaign for a number of reasons.
Two great candidates.
This is
Well, a number of great
2022.
candidates. We had State Senator Keisha Hinsdale in there
Oh, yeah,
at
of
one point.
course. Our pal.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we had a lot of great candidates, a lot of very talented folks, and an open congressional seat for the first time since, I think, 2006.
16 years.
And so it obviously
A great
generated a lot of
congressman, too.
interest. Yeah, no doubt.
And before that, it had been Bernie. So you had 30 years of the top cats, man.
Yeah.
Bernie and Senator Welch and Senator Sanders. Boy, I respect those two. They're the two of the best in the whole Senate.
Yeah, so it was an exciting race to work on. I had just graduated university and joined up with the campaign immediately, and got to meet a lot of great folks like you and Owen. That's the best part of campaigns,
Now, you
I
had
think.
spent your college in McGill.
Yeah.
Now, unlike Owen and I, we did heavy college Democrats. Owen was president of college Democrats. I was down in Hartford, just involved in Democrats. My
About the
friend,
same time, too.
You were doing was there any active American Democratic stuff going on in McGill or no?
Yeah, there was a college Democrats
let's hear about
chapter
that.
at McGill. I wasn't
I didn't
that
know
involved.
that.
I wasn't that involved in it actually. I think they
Right.
mostly would, have dial-in volunteer sessions for races in the United States, so they would get together and talk about Democratic politics.
You had a lot of academics to do.
I did. I was very involved in academics. I was a research fellow at my time at McGill.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was also competed in mock trial, so I had my hands full of that sort of stuff.
Hey, we're gonna have you on again and talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. So
We
anyway,
should have a mock trial.
We should. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, really, for the first time since 1990, when Bernie took the seat from a man who had just beaten him, was only there for 2 years, Peter Smith, we really had an open, because there was really no doubt in 1990 and no doubt in 2006. Peter Welch beat a very tough challenger in General Martha Rainville. I don't know if you remember when just a young guy.
Adjutant General.
She was a really good candidate, moderate Republican. She probably still would have been around. But so now we have this truly open race, and there's a feeling, my God damn it, it's got to be a woman. It's got to be a woman.
Yeah.
It had been a white male since 1791.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, Peter.
Well, we were the last state that had not sent a woman to Congress, which was something of a national embarrassment for us at that point.
Right.
And so, really the male candidates that might have been interested ducked out and allowed the female candidates to take the lead.
Got vibed out.
Yeah. And, ultimately Becca was able to come from behind and win, I think, due to her strength as a candidate, her ability to connect to people, her substantive focus on the issues, and her ability to understand what Vermont Democrats really wanted in that race and to meet that energy. But also because we had a great team. We had great people like the two of you helping. We had a really talented campaign manager, Natalie Silver, a really talented field team led by
Hannah.
Hannah was involved, very
Hannah
talented
King, who watches
fundraising.
the show, my dear friend.
One of our most dedicated viewers.
Yeah,
Now,
no doubt.
Also, except for our dear friend Governor Shumlin, who is a family friend of yours.
Yeah.
Peter's mom, full disclosure, was a scheduler, which the governor doesn't set his own schedule. He works off a schedule. So Peter's known Governor Shumlin since you were just a kid. So it seemed like the Southern Vermont Democrats said, hey, we need to turn at the table, man. What do you think about that? Because, for example, we were just down in Brattleboro not too long ago, and I said to you, I've been here like 3-4 times in my whole life. I've been here on the train. And the people in Brattleboro don't come up to Burlington. So how did she, I guess her experience in the legislature kind of halfway in the middle. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that Brattleboro, Burlington.
Yeah.
Schism, I guess, would be the best word.
Well, and I feel like you understand those dynamics pretty well. I mean, you were down there in Brattleboro.
You worked on the campaign too.
Brattleboro is closer to New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York state capitals.
So
than it is to
Albany,
Montpelier.
Hartford, Providence, Concord,
Boston.
Very close to Concord, and then Boston. That is stunning.
And so, yeah, I think that the statewide
They
reach
watch
being,
Connecticut news and stuff too.
I can't confirm. I don't know why. They probably watch Massachusetts news.
Down there, you guys can get Channel 3 and Springfield.
they're in the Boston media market
Yeah.
and
Right.
Massachusetts
Worcester?
media market. Yeah.
Yeah, Brattlechusets, as it's
Brattlechusets.
I never
affectionately
heard
known
that.
as. But yeah, I think that being state senator and doing that work in the state house certainly contributed to kind of having more reach, and obviously the great team behind her too, kind of pushing that message out, was instrumental as well.
And it can be an advantage because Windham County in that southern part of Vermont has pretty significant turnout in Democratic
Very
primaries compared to its population as a whole. And so I know that was a big advantage for Peter Shumlin when he was running in that highly contested 5-way race in 2010 to be governor. It was really his margins in Windham County that won him that race. Now Becca put up great margins all across the state, won
including
I
the
believe,
rural counties
12
too.
out of 14 counties went for Becca. So she did a great job across the state, but that early base in Windham provided a lot of energy, a lot of volunteers, a lot of small dollar donors that said, hey, this person is just served us well as a state senator. She served the whole state well as president pro
White
tem.
River. Yeah. And also we want to thank Molly Gray. She's a really good person. Mom, friend, Burlington resident. I think she watches the show occasionally. And I have heard, okay, Molly, I hope you don't faint hearing this, but I heard you're interested in running for lieutenant governor, and I would be a strong supporter of that. I thought she did a good job as lieutenant governor.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And was able, unfortunately, David Zuckerman, who's my friend, was able to find some common ground with the governor. Now, I blame the governor for some of this, but Molly, for example, when Governor Shumlin was governor, he leaned on Phil Scott as lieutenant governor, especially during the storm, and especially for Phil to travel to Phil's work. Phil wouldn't be governor unless he was lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Becca in Washington now. Owen, what committees is she on?
What's going on in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Well, she's on the Budget Committee and the Judiciary Committee down in D.C., which are two very busy committees. And so things are busy. Of course, they're in recess this month, so they're not busy this month from now on.
But she's busy up here.
Traveling
She's
the
busy
state.
up here. She's always busy wherever she is.
Coming up to Burlington, Owen?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Of course.
Talk about the town hall you did just about 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, on
Winooski.
July 2nd,
Okay.
maybe 1st. We had a town hall over in Winooski about democracy. You can actually view it on Town Meeting TV's YouTube and all of that, wherever you get your news, which is obviously only Town Meeting TV. And so, yeah, we had it on democracy. We had a great panel of folks. I think if you're interested in learning a little bit more about democracy, the origins of it, how you can participate in it in both a local, state, and national and international level, then you should give it a listen. I, as someone who has seen a lot of panels and am genuinely sometimes bored of panels and would never go out to seek out a panel usually, I found myself very interested in what they were talking about. So I really recommend it. It was funny. It was a very interesting panel.
Well, she was a former teacher, so she was right in her element.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a great panel. Did you watch?
Yeah.
My friend, we first of all, we need to thank CCTV for doing this. On I'm sorry, I got here about 1 minute before the show, kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'd like to thank my great friend Kevin Harms, who's behind the board. I'd like to thank Jordan Mitchell. I'd like to thank Megan O'Rourke, Miss Lauren Glendavidian, Stephen Harmon, Emily, both you guys. I really appreciate you coming on. Let's talk. Okay, let's be honest here for a second. I have a feeling that the governor is going to run again. I feel that he's going to try to see Trump through. He's not a Trump supporter. He resents highly his party being hijacked. What do you think, Owen, and what do you think, Peter?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
I don't think he knows.
Okay.
If I was a betting person, based on prior results, he runs again because that's what he's done every time. And I would say the same thing about probably Bernie too, and that's what he did last time too. So I don't know. I don't think so.
And Senator Welch.
So,
yes.
But not 100% sure. He is somebody that I think is pretty effective at keeping his cards close to his chest.
Especially in Chittenden, where Gov, we love you, but I haven't seen you in Burlington forever. I was disappointed you didn't come to Mayor Emma's swearing in. I'd love to see you on Church Street getting a cone at Ben & Jerry's, or coming to a concert, or going to the bookstore, or buying some clothes, or going to the coffee shop. We go to the Crew coffee shop all the time. That's where we'd like to see you. Peter, what do you think?
Well, we're not going to know until he knows and makes his intentions clear. I think there are reasons you could see him running and reasons you could see him not
Absolutely.
running. Governing the state's not an easy job, and it's about to get a lot harder with Medicaid cuts coming down the pipeline, further difficult conversations to have around school consolidation. It's going to be potentially a very challenging next couple of years for the state of Vermont, and you could see that being a reason not to run again.
Or a reason to run again.
Or a reason to run again.
It goes down the
No
road
doubt.
so long that eventually you and me and the devil makes three. There's got to be some reckoning.
I mean, the important thing is, regardless of who is governor, the real question we all have to answer is, what are we going to do to face these challenges, and what are we going to do to protect the most vulnerable Vermonters and help Vermonters achieve their own individual dreams? Because when they do that, we're stronger as a state overall. And that means investing in education. That means investing in making housing more affordable, healthcare more affordable.
100% broadband. We've been talking about that. Governor Shumlin really tried. It's very difficult. There's large portions of, what counties? Orange, Lamoille, Essex, counties that don't have broadband. Am I missing something? Maybe parts of Bennington County too.
Yeah, in the most rural areas across the state lack access to broadband in certain pockets. We've made a lot of progress, and I think Vermont is something of a national model in terms of how you can roll out broadband across the state. But those last few miles into the most rural areas with the fewest homes paying for that expansion, that's where it's really challenging, really expensive.
Now, one thing I've noticed is just turning over to immigration and the border, we don't see as many French Canadians down in Burlington. They add so much. They come down, they eat, they drink. I love their fashions. I love their way. They're so friendly. They kick a lot of money into the economy. But frankly, they're afraid to cross the border. And I'll be honest, I have some trepidations about crossing any border. And I was born in America and have an American passport. Now, I think of my sister. She lives over in the UK, and she has an Irish passport and an American passport. I think she's thinking twice about, and I can't speak for my sister, dear sister Allison, but nobody who wants to get hassled at the border. Just when you're going up to have some beers or go to a concert.
Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Well, it's an understandable concern.
Go to McGill.
You look at what happened to Wilbur, the superintendent of schools in Winooski, and the interrogation he faced trying to cross the border. It's understandable that people are afraid. And to your point, I went to McGill. I spent 4 years crossing the border.
Hundreds of times.
I crossed during the pandemic when you didn't know if you'd be let in or not. The rules and regulations of the early stages of the pandemic were unclear. I've been held at the border for hours.
You told me
in
that
order
story.
for folks to review my papers to get across in that
Clean
time.
record, young guy going to McGill, who's lived his whole life in Vermont.
That was
this outfit.
Probably wearing this outfit.
No,
that
but
was
I'm saying that's
driven
crazy.
that was driven by the pandemic and the pandemic era regulations. And even then, I didn't feel the level of concern that I feel now. And I never thought in my lifetime I'd be hesitant to cross that border, which is really tragic for so many Vermonters because we've spent generations building our lives across that border, families and friendships and working and studying like I did.
Now let's just thank all the Border Patrol, both French, Canadian, Anglophone Canadian, and American. They have a tough job. Their directives change every day. Unfortunately, there are some rough people crossing the border. There is human trafficking. There is guns. There's a lot of heroin and fentanyl. So they have to be very vigilant. And as we've seen, Border Patrol officers are occasionally shot and killed. They face a lot of abuse. They face uncertainty from both their country changed leadership and our country changed leadership. So my salute to those guys, you know, up in Swanton on the border, or just across, and you know, they all know each other. And I mean, you must have got to know those folks and women too, crossing the border so many times.
Yeah, definitely.
Now McGill must be down with American applications, I would think.
Oh,
I'd assume, yeah.
yeah.
And then there's always some French or Anglophone kids that come down to go to UVM. And, you know, the border, I mean, Peter, tell the story about Derby Line with the library and the school and everything. Like literally, you'd be in Canada and I'm in America. Can you talk about that? Because you know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, up in Derby Line.
Yeah, Peter, you're more native Vermonter. You might know a little more.
Well, it's called the Haskell Free Opera House and Library. It's a library that operates along the U.S.-Canadian border. And for as long as it was open, Canadians were allowed to cross the border along a sidewalk in order to use the main library entrance. And the Trump administration shut that down, citing security threats, and essentially forced the Canadians to use a separate entrance to the library, which was not wheelchair accessible.
Oh.
And you know, the good news is the library director, who herself is Canadian, raised the funds they needed to make that back entrance wheelchair accessible.
You know her name?
I want to say it is.
Well,
Sabine?
give it a try.
Sabine, I want to say. Sylvie Boudreau. That's her name. And she was Treasurer Mike Piechek's guest at the Curtis Fund dinner in this past April, Sylvie Boudreau. And she raised the money from both sides of the border, the Quebec and Vermont border.
I love her. Thank you, Sylvie. Thank you, Ms. Boudreau.
Yeah. And she sent a pretty clear message that the Trump administration's actions aren't going to divide us, and that we're going to continue to invest on both sides of the border into this shared resource that brings us together.
Yeah, I mean, the town in Quebec, Stan said, right? They have contributed to the general fund of the library. It's split operating fees, I guess.
So if you want to go to Walmart, if you want to go to a nice grocery store, if you want to go to Whole Foods, if you just want to go swimming in Vermont or get some maple syrup, it's a hassle. We see borders are very problematic, and we see that the Republicans use the border. You know, the area around the border in Texas and stuff is one of the safest cities in America. Isn't Laredo or Corpus Christi? I mean, the hysteria. And you know, I've been in New York City. I spend some time in New York City every month, and I see a lot of Mexican immigrants, and they're selling fruit and candy on the subway with their kids. They're not harming anyone, man. They're just trying to get by. They're the sweetest people. And New York has been very welcoming to the migrant community. Burlington has been very open to the migrant community. Owen, we have 10 minutes left. We want to talk about Nectar's closing for about 3 or 4 minutes. We'll do that, but we have 7 minutes. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I feel like we should talk about the big interview that's hit since we last talked, which was Hunter Biden sat for a 3-hour interview with, I didn't know, it wasn't a channel, it was like a YouTuber
called Channel 3 News.
Channel 3 News.
Can you say it again, Peter?
It's a YouTube channel called Channel 3 News. It came out of a similar channel that still runs called All Gas No Brakes over the last 2 years.
Funny.
That does really on-the-ground reporting in different pockets of America. At first, focusing on, you know, where there are sort of oddities or extremes in our society.
Bipartisan or more left or more down?
I would say bipartisan. I mean, they interview people sort of on the ground that are engaging in behaviors that you might consider extreme. So alt-right rallies, the most violent areas of protests and riots.
Some rough stuff.
Rough stuff at times, and it's almost ethnographic research in terms of these like long, uncut viewings of what's happening in America.
Real deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hunter is angry. Hunter is angry at the government. Hunter is angry at President Trump. He's angry that the Democratic Party did not support his father. I think he's angry that his funds dried right up. I have very mixed feelings about Hunter. I think he caused his father a lot of problems. I don't think he's a loyal Democrat, and I didn't like what he said. I didn't like what he said about Mr. Clooney. And why don't you talk about that for a couple minutes? And
yeah, I mean, he basically went on, and I didn't watch the full interview. I only saw like the little clips and stuff. But he went on a tirade against pretty much I think everything, right, Peter?
Yeah, I did watch the full interview.
He went on a tirade against Clooney. Maybe he's right about that. Against most of the Democratic Party, he's probably wrong about some of those people and right about some of them in different circumstances. Really defended his father.
Nothing wrong with that.
Said that the debate performance, the famous one, was due to him like flying around the world and taking Ambien. So he was like falling asleep because of that, and he would have been fine otherwise. He went on a
He went to Europe twice in 10 days.
Yeah.
And Ambien, I've never taken it,
so
but
that's the expectation.
it's a knockout drug, basically.
I would say I think Hunter had some understandable anger that came out in the interview regarding a number of things he's experienced in his life, and he's someone who's dealt with a lot of hardship in his life, and we shouldn't minimize the fact that addiction is a terrible disease
that terrible
that
car
does terrible
accident.
things to at times really wonderful people. What I think this interview showcased most of all is that what a lot of people might have forgotten about Hunter and over the years of his abuse being in the public eye, which is that he's actually a rather smart and thoughtful person.
I think that this reminded them of that a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that he has some criticisms of how the Democratic Party treated Joe Biden. Joe Biden, to his credit, was, I think, the most effective president we've had since Lyndon B. Johnson.
We can get a picture of, we love Joe. President Biden.
I think we can be frank and say that the process of replacing Joe Biden was quick, and it was done without substantial input from the voters. Now, you could say that 81 million people voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris under the understanding that Kamala Harris as vice president was...
Just for a second, we're going to put the board up, I promised.
His successor. But at the time, I think the Democratic Party was focused predominantly on defeating Donald Trump, and they did what they felt was best for defeating Donald Trump. Hunter Biden feels that was unfair to Joe. It might have been. But it might have been necessary nonetheless.
Yeah.
If someone criticized my dad, I would freak out on them.
That's fair.
Okay? Hunter is a psychiatrist's dream. Almost killed in a car accident, raised with a new mom. His dad was away all the time, came home every night on the train. I really like Hunter. I wish he hadn't written that book about the addiction and posted pictures of him, doing drugs with guns and stuff. He's a very damaged guy, and I wish him well. I do think there's a part of him in the maybe that needed to be said. We have, Peter, your boss is our wonderful state treasurer, Mike Pichek. And you watched it, we did a tribute to his dear mom, Mrs. Pichek, who was a stalwart of the community down in Brattleboro. And she was part of a program that fed 45,000 meals to poor Brattleboro residents. Wonderful Democrat. And anyway, Mike's a dear friend, but also Peter's boss, one of the most popular politicians, one of the most popular Democrats, that's sure. Talk about what Mr. P is doing, and we love you, bro. Hope you're watching.
I know he's going to watch this episode,
okay.
For sure. But, he always likes watching. But
thank you.
Mike, in the treasurer's office is really focused on investing in people. And we do that through a number of ways. We do that through loans that create more affordable housing for Vermonters. We've created over 1,300 units of housing, I believe, since he took office. We do that through programs like Vermont Saves, where We allow public access to retirement to 80,000 Vermonters for the first time in their lives. And most recently, we passed a bill that we advocated for that will allow our office to eliminate up to $100 million in medical debt that's weighing Vermonters down financially and preventing them from accessing the health care procedures that they need.
Excuse me just for a second. Owen, can you move that sign?
It's in the
behind-
shot. It's in
Oh,
the
it's
shot.
in the
Look,
shot. We have to
Kevin
talk-
just fixed it. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. CCTV. They have all this modern equipment. Beautiful studio. Wonderful employees. Amazing. I was just watching the other time I did a show. They had footage of when President Ford came here in 1976.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Or maybe 1978. But it's expensive. And you see we have this 24-hour telethon. cctv.org telethon to donate. Can we say that again?
CCTV/telethon to donate.
I'll be donating.
Okay, good. I think I'll donate too. They're already, it looks like $34,000. That's good. But you know what? We really need 100. We need $250,000, really. We're not going to be getting money.
They're
from
only looking for 10, I think.
Well, it says 34,000. Do you see?
No,
I
that's
think that's
that's
3,400
that's
on that right side.
4,500.
Oh, okay.
they've raised.
Okay, so let's try to get to 10,000. I got ahead of myself. We have, first of all, I'd like to thank Peter for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
I'd like to thank my executive editor and great
coming on.
friends. Nectar's just announced some really sad news. They're closing after 50. Oh,
Your microphone.
and start talking about
Nectar's just closed after a long, long time in
50
service.
years.
50 years in service to the community of Burlington. Famous. If you just watched the most recent season of The Bear, which I did not, there was a Nectar's T-shirt on the most recent season. Famous. And they just announced they're closing. Tragedy in downtown, really. A big lost space, definitely.
Yeah.
Peter, you live downtown.
I
so
do.
You used to love to go to Nectar's.
You know, I think I did, and I'll miss them. And you know, there are a lot of downtown businesses that are struggling in Burlington. The construction's been an issue. You know, feelings around public safety have been an issue that a lot of business owners have expressed. I also know that bar owners in particular have been hit hard by the cost of liquor liability insurance. It's been a huge issue that keeps going up year after year and adding to their expenses.
People are drinking less, too.
Yeah, and so, you know.
Everything costs more. For example, my friend at Three Needs has the pizza oven, the dough, the salt, the sugar, you think the plastic cups and napkins, all the transport. And some of this is eventually from the tariffs.
Yeah.
You know, whether we like it or not. For example, every bit of clothing we're wearing today, including the sweatshirt, is from some other country.
Yeah.
Probably a young kid making it, and it breaks my heart. We have 2 minutes left.
We just got the wrap-up signal.
Yeah. I'm going to duck out. I'm going to let Peter, Owen, you're going to duck out. Peter, you're going to close it.
Well, I guess I'll close with saying, please go out and support your local businesses. Thank you so much for watching. Please donate to support CCTV, and hope you have a great evening.
You got another minute?